Hi, welcome to my channel called Fate Studios, where I'm going to be showing you how to make miniature series step by step. This is going to be the first edition of the Saby series. The first edition of the Saby series is going to be this one over here called Tending, where she's sitting on a little grass slab caring for her plant. That's why it's called Tending. She's tending her little plants. And I'm going to be showing you how to make it step by step in this video. I'm going to be sharing some tips and tricks. This is beginner friendly, so don't worry about that. I will be there along the way. To make this, you're going to be needing your box with materials, so be sure you have that next to you. So yeah, let's get started.
The first step is sculpting. So roll out your baking paper, take your clay, take a glass of water, and you can also put your display next to you. Yes, the wooden display. The water is there to make the clay a little bit softer along the way, so it makes the process of claying a little bit easier. Okay, so take your clay, take a good chunk out of it, and add water to make it softer and a little bit more moldable. Just add more water to your liking. If you want it softer, obviously add more water, and if you want it a little bit more sturdier, add less water. And roll a ball, like a circular ball, and if you have some cracks, just use water to smooth it down so the cracks are completely gone. Make a ball with the small piece of clay that you have, and that ball is for the head. If some parts are a little bit bulky, just use your fingers obviously in between them to make them flat, so you have a perfect circle. Take 2 small chunks of clay, and those are going to be the ears. Make sure they are the same size so the ears are even, obviously. And if you added a little bit too much clay, just take it off so you are sure they are the same size, because we don't want uneven ears. Along the way, add a little bit more water to make it a little bit sticky so they stick to the head when we're trying to put it on. Make sure they are like a size of a pill, so not circular but like pill shaped. And then use your toothpick and scrape the sides of the ears so they stick better. You can see it a little bit better right here that I'm scraping the sides and pushing the clay of the ears down into the head so it sticks and it goes seamlessly into the head. So there isn't like a stop, but it goes right in smoothly. With the toothpick, you kind of get these like stripes on your clay, so just add more water to your finger and just smooth down the seam. And repeat the same process with the second ear. So yeah, now you have the finished result of the head. And when you were molding the ears, maybe you kind of smushed down the head, so just make sure it's still a perfect ball. Apparently I lost the footage where I added the nose, but in this step also add the nose. Keep on fixing it to your liking. You can keep smoothing down the ears, you can fix the shape of the head a little bit. Just keep on going until you're happy. And now take another chunk of clay, and this is going to be the body. So just take some clay, use some water to make it moldable. Make sure the body is slightly bigger than the head. You can always check in between, like what I'm doing here. To make sure the bottom of the body part is flat, because Saby is going to be sitting down, just use the display and push the under part to make sure it's flat. While it's on the display, just roll the top part in between the palms of your hands to make sure the top part is a little bit more narrow than the bottom. Now take a piece of clay and now we're going to make the legs. So make 2 pieces and make sure they are the same size. Take the 2 pieces, turn them into 2 little balls, and when you have the ball shape, turn them into like a pill shape for the legs. Okay, so now you have your 2 pieces, like the 2 legs, and we're going to apply the same technique that we use when we attach the ears. So you take your toothpick and smooth it in. Do you see how the sides are a little bit flat? Just take a piece of clay and put it against it and smooth it in so it's like a nice little hump and not so flat. Once you're finished and happy with your first leg, you can proceed to do the other one and just repeat the same steps with the toothpick and smoothing it out with the water. Yes, and once you're done with the legs, you can proceed to make 2 little clay balls, kind of the same size as the legs, and make the arms. And now you repeat the same process using the toothpick to smooth it down into the body. Using a toothpick is very handy because you can just smooth it out, especially because it's such a small sculpture. If you have clay tools, you can use them, but I think a toothpick is easier because it's very tiny and very sharp and very narrow, because clay tools are most of the time very big, and I just like to hold like something very tiny in my hand when I'm making very tiny sculptures. And once you're finished, this is how it should look like. Make sure they are about the same length and the same size. If one is longer than the other, just remove some clay. Take a small piece of clay, because now we're going to be making the plant pot, including the plant. Make a ball and twist it in between your fingers to make sure the bottom and the top are completely flat, because it's a pot, so it needs to be flat on both sides. And now take a teeny tiny piece of clay and roll it into like a spaghetti shape, because that is going to be the brim around the pot. Make sure it completely wraps around the pot so it isn't too short. Okay, so now you take your toothpick and you flatten it out. Because we made a spaghetti shape, it is a little bit round. So just make sure it looks like an actual brim and just flatten it out with your fingers or with the toothpick. Now you have your pot, so we're going to start making the actual plant. So take a little piece of clay and make it into a spaghetti shape, just like you did with the brim. I wanted to show you guys how it looks, but it was very hard because they're both very tiny. But this is how it should look. It shouldn't be too long. And now take very tiny pieces, about 3, make them into little balls and then mold them into like petal shapes, like a raindrop shape. So make sure the bottom is a little bit narrow and the top is a little wide, like you're seeing here, like a raindrop. And those are going to be the petals of the plant. Now take a big chunk of your clay. This is going to be the grass where Saby is sitting on top of. You could make it like the whole square of the display that you have so that it covers everything. But it can also be what I'm doing here, like an oval shape, just like in the picture. But it kind of depends on how you want your sculpture to look. Now I'm just smoothing down the chunk of clay a little so it is a nice oval shape. And I'm assembling everything just to see how it all looks. Because the head needs to be on top of the body, now just take your toothpick and make sure it's like flat or like kind of hollow. So just take your toothpick and like roll it inwards so the head can sit nicely on top of the body. So now I'm just kind of fitting it in to make sure it fits nicely, and this is how it should all look together. And now we're going to start to make the grass texture on the oval shape. So I do this by making crisscross movements with the toothpicks so you get this kind of texture. It is a very tedious part, so make sure you know, listening to your favorite music or have your favorite show on. But it's also very therapeutic. It kind of depends on how you look at it. But just make sure you do like little crisscrosses and wipe away the excess when like little balls start to form. Once you're completely done, this is how it should look like. And now for the second part is to let them dry. Let them dry for about 24 hours to make sure it's fully hardened. Now 24 hours later, everything is completely hardened and you can like assemble them to see how it should look like. I also made this kind of grass texture where it fully covers the whole display, so this is also an option. Now I'm just showing how both options would look like with the square or the oval shape. Kind of depends on what you want to do. You can make it the whole square so all the scenes connect seamlessly together. And this is also something that I kind of experimented with, is to add the paint to the clay instead of adding it afterwards. But like I said, it kind of depends on how you want your own sculpture to look. You're free to experiment with different things. But just for the sake of this video, we're going to be painting the scene with acrylics after. Now everything is fully dry. You can start using your sandpaper to smooth it down. If you have like very rough areas and you didn't smooth it out correctly with the water, you are free to use your sandpaper. You don't have to if you like how it looks right now. This part is completely optional. So if you would like to, you can go in. If you don't want to, you can skip this step. But I always like to sand it down a little bit so all the large chunks are completely gone. And now for the third part is adding the gesso. This is like a primer to make sure your acrylic paint actually sticks to your clay sculpture and it doesn't start peeling like after a couple of weeks. So I recommend you do like 2 coats. You can do 3 if you have enough. Just go in. It dries pretty fast, like in about half an hour, and then you're free to apply multiple coats if you would like to. Once you're completely done with adding the gesso and the amount of coats that you want, start gluing all the parts of the plant together. Right now we're only going to start gluing the plant parts and not the body yet, because I want to fully paint the head and the body before gluing it all together. But for the plant, it's easier to paint everything once it's in like its full plant form than painting all the small parts individually. So now just take the stem of the plant and add a little dot of glue in the middle and hold it for a couple of seconds once it's completely hardened. And now I'm gluing all the petals to the sides of the stem. Just use the reference picture, just one on each side and one on top. So you have like 3 leaves on the stem. And this is how it should look like with the 2 leaves, and now you just add the final one on top. Once you're completely done with your pot, we're going to the 4th step, and that is painting, of course. So you should have black, yellow, green, brown, and white, and we're going to use those to make our desired colors. So start out with the white for the color of Saby's body, and then add a little bit of brown, yellow, mix it all together very nicely. And add some more brown to it. Use the reference picture kind of to make that specific color. It's like a yellowish brown, white, grayish color. And I'm also adding some black to make it kind of on the gray muted side, so it's not super bright because we added the yellow. And keep on adding it till it's the color of the reference picture. So this is the final color that I'm going for, and now I just start painting the head first and then after the body. Okay, make sure your brush is completely cleaned. And now we're going to paint the plant part of the pot. So just take your green, add some white to make it a little bit lighter. And add some black to make it a little muted so it's not as bright. Add a little bit more white to make it just a little lighter. And this is the final color that we're going for. So just start painting the plant. Because we're already on the green, we're going to start painting the grass. So just take the color that you already had, add some green to it, add some white to it. I just wanted to make the grass just a little bit darker than the plant, so I'm adding a little bit of black. And this is the color that we're going for, and just start painting your grass. Just because it's textured, you can just go over it and start swiping it like making brush strokes. You have to kind of pat it down, and I suggest you make a lot of the green paint and just start globbing it on and just patting it down so it goes in between all the cracks. Once you're completely done with your grass, wash down your brush, and we're going to go on to the next part. Now we're going to start mixing the color for the plant pot. So take your brown and take your black and start mixing them together. And also take a little bit of your white just to make it slightly lighter. Keep mixing the brown and the black together. I thought it was a little bit too desaturated, so I added a little bit more brown. I added a little too much black, so I just took a separate part and added some white because I already had some brown on my paintbrush. And I also added a teeny tiny dot of yellow to give it like a little bit of a yellow hue. Once I had that, I added a little bit of the brown that we made earlier and mixed them together to have my desired brown color. And once you're done, you can start painting the plant pot. Just make sure you're painting around the middle part because the middle part is going to be like the earth, and it's going to be slightly darker than your plant pot. So make sure you're painting around that. Here I'm showing you how to mix the color for the earth part. So just take your color and add more black to it to make it darker. And once you're done, you can start painting the inside of the plant pot. And once you're completely done with your plant, just place it to the side of you. And now we're going to add all the details to the head. We're going to add the eyes and the mouth. And for the eyes, I recommend you take the back of your brush and start dotting on the eyes. Make sure they are the same height. You can use a pencil before and then use the paint. Once you have the two dots, you can use your toothpick to spread out the paint so you have those nice oval shapes and not like two little perfect circles. Once you're done with the eyes, we can proceed to do the mouth, and that is just basically just a line. So just use your toothpick and just place it to make a line. Use the end part of it so you can make not necessarily a perfect line, but make sure that it's just straight then instead of using your brush. And once you're completely done adding the eyes and the mouth, you can take the body and we are going to start gluing them together. So take your super glue and add a dot on the body part and place the head on top. Add glue to the sides of the plant pot and place it in between Saby's hand so it appears like she's holding it. Once you're done with that, take your little display and the grass, place it on top, and you're going to be also gluing Saby on top of the grass so she's sitting on top of it nicely. And don't drop it like I did. And this is what it should look like at the end when everything is completely glued together. And now I'm giving you kind of a 360 on how my sculpture looks. And now we're going into the fifth part. And that is adding the varnish. So take your varnish out of your kit, take your paintbrush and just start adding all the varnish to it completely. And this is what it should look like when all the varnish is completely dried.
After all of those steps, you should be with something like this. Or if you made like the whole square grass, you could have that instead of this little oval shape right here, because in the next series you can connect them all together so you have one cohesive part. So if you would like that, that's also an option to make it all kind of one scene, because all the scenes are going to be intertwining together. This is the first one, so stay tuned for the next one in the Saby series. There are going to be 3, so 2 left. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed it. If you're into making miniature clay scenes or you want a new hobby for 2026, yeah, you can feel free to subscribe to my channel, because there are going to be more videos about how to make these miniature clay scenes, new characters in the series. And yeah, thank you for watching and subscribe for more.